at the tail end of this series. This series will end in June, so we've got just a couple sessions left. But this has been a really great opportunity to engage with folks. And so we also have been recording our sessions on YouTube, so you can look back at all of the previous sessions we posted, maybe some that you might have missed, or if you want to share them with folks, they will be there. And for today's session, we are going to chat with Jeffrey Whipple. And Jeffrey Whipple is a game warden with Vermont Fish and Wildlife. And so we're going to hear a little bit about his experience in the field. He's been with the Law Enforcement Division in Vermont Fish and Wildlife for 11.5 years. He's stationed in the Fairleigh District and covers approximately half of Orange County. Jeff has a bachelor's degree from Paul Smith's College in Fish and Wildlife Science. And Jeff is also the coordinator for the Operation Game Thief program that he's going to talk about today a little bit. And so we are so excited for today's session. We're going to learn a little bit about kind of what it's like to be a game warden in the state of Vermont. What do they encounter on a daily basis? Kind of what are some of the requirements for becoming a game warden? And what is kind of some of the fulfilling work that they get to do here in our community to kind of protect and conserve our wildlands. So without further ado, I will turn it over, Jeff, to you if you want to turn your screen on and take over the screen share. I'll let you kick off your presentation. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me, and welcome everybody. And like Ashley said, I'm super excited to be here and to talk about what we do on a daily basis. Today we're going to go over a little bit about what game wardens do from day to day. So sometimes we can be behind the scenes of law enforcement in Vermont, and sometimes we're the front lines of law enforcement in Vermont. So, and it depends on where you might be and what you might be participating in. And so we're going to start with a little video. We're going to hope this works. And if it doesn't, then the where is posted up top, and you can check it out a little bit later. So.
For 150 years, Vermont game wardens have been proudly conserving Vermont's natural resources and protecting the people who use them. Our work is dedicated to meeting the evolving recreational interests of Vermonters through education, community outreach, professional law enforcement, and search and rescue. Building upon Vermont's fine traditions of hunting, fishing, and trapping. And supporting the expanding interest in hiking, ecotourism, and wildlife watching in Vermont. With backgrounds in law enforcement, natural conservation, and biological life sciences, our team of highly motivated individuals are looking for people from a multitude of different backgrounds, from all walks of life, to become the wardens of tomorrow. We are Vermont game wardens. Apply today.
Hey guys, can you still hear me? Sorry, we got cut a little short.
Yep, You sound
Okay. Yeah, my video froze up the last minute. I got a couple of emails that piled in. So that was my fault. So let's start up with my PowerPoint here, if I can figure out how to share my screen. Oops. Okay, so we're going to go through just a little PowerPoint that I put together, and basically show some photos on the job, or on well, following us around, and real life cases that we've done. It kind of started with just an overview of what we do, and then I went by season. So I did. We're actually going to start with winter. Not only that's my favorite, but so we go through what we do in each season and how the job actually changes. So our job is pretty unique. As far as it's nothing like any other law enforcement profession in the state or country or even world. Our job changes per season. So we do something completely different every season change. So we never fall into repetition or get bored or it's never the same. When you sign on as a game warden in the morning, or if you work night shift in the afternoon, you never know what you're going to get. It's super exciting because you might be just kind of cruising down the road and going to get your boat and going out on the lake for a really nice day. And then all of a sudden your world changes and you've got, an injured moose up on the interstate, or, a hiker that needs to be rescued somewhere. So it's pretty neat. So we're going to go through a little bit of that, and we'll try and keep it pretty quick because we're kind of burning up some time. So let's get started. So game wardens do, so our number one priority, our number one thing that we're out doing is fish and wildlife law enforcement. So fish and wildlife law enforcement is at the top of our list. So we are full-time certified law enforcement officers in the state. So that means we have the same amount of power as state troopers, DMV, county sheriff, any of that stuff. So we can patrol our own district, but we have power to enforce any law in the state of Vermont. So kind of think about that for a little bit. You've got certain law enforcement that does certain things, like it might be traffic, or it might be drug interdiction, or something like that. So they have that specialized unit, and then they just do that. So we do all of that, plus we actually go. There's a huge black bear walking across my lawn right now, which is kind of interesting. Sorry. So we have a ton of different duties that we can do, but we stay within the state. So our next one up is boating enforcement. So in the summertime, we're out on the boats, and so we're checking boater safety, we're checking fishing licenses and things like that. Snowmobile enforcement is in the winter. That's what we're going to start with the next one. Oh, now he's in my garden. Little rascal. So then where was I? ATV enforcement. So we do ATV stuff. We work with the private clubs to patrol their trails and enforce ATV registrations and responsible riding. Public outreach, which I'm really involved in with the Operation Game Thief program, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Search and rescue. So we assist the state police with search and rescue incidences where it might be a missing skier or hiker or somebody that has gotten lost, that we go in and help out. And then assisting other agencies, and that's mostly law enforcement, but it could be assisting a motorist who's broke down on the side of the road, and in helping them out with lights and what have you, or helping out at a fire scene or something, which we're all eager to stop and help out if we can be of use. So in the winter, like I said, my favorite time of the year, snowmobile patrol. So we're actually out. Each game warden gets issued a snowmobile. I'm realizing that this picture of me that I put up there is probably going to make it to my lieutenant, and I'm probably not supposed to be maybe doing wheelies on my department issued snowmobile, but I put it in there because it shows that we have some fun too. We're not just serious, and we get out there and use the toys that were provided responsibly, right? So each game warden's issued a snowmobile. We are actively patrolling the snowmobile trails. We ride, we do trail crossings, we do SUI, so basically like a DUI for snowmobile patrol, so we can take people into custody for that. And we're checking for responsible riders and folks that are playing by the rules and having all their equipment up to date and registered. So here's just a couple of quick pictures. Guys on the top left are having a little lunch, kind of a little hot dog cookout. Bottom right, retired lieutenant of ours. It's hard to see in that picture, but in the bag is a bunch of little baby brook trout. And he rode up to an old beaver pond, drilled a hole in the ice, and is stalking fish from his snowmobile, which is super unique. So that's why I put this picture in here. Winter months is ice fishing patrol. So pretty much split our time between out on the snowmobile trails and out ice fishing, checking ice fishermen. We're just looking for same thing, people playing by the rules. Each ice fishing shanty has to be labeled. They can't litter. They've got to be off at a certain time. And then everybody obviously has to have a fishing license too. So springtime comes, which we're just coming out of now. We get the boats back out and we're out on the water. So like I said, right? So now our job has now changed for the first time of the year, completely different. So now we bring out a new set of tools. Each game warden gets issued a boat, a motorboat, and a kayak. These are take-home things. So we actually bring these boats home, and we have full use of however we want to use them for patrol in our districts. Come with a gas card, and we put them to work, really. So not everybody gets issued a twin engine big boat like this. This is on Champlain, and then it depends on what district you cover for what size boat you get, but it's really nice, and it's nice to get out and actually check some fishermen. One thing I didn't put in here is we do assist in fish stocking, so we help out the hatcheries with that. So turkey hunter patrol. So the month of May is turkey hunting season for spring turkeys. Then we transition again. We've already kind of transitioned a little bit here into the summer. Now it's boating enforcement, and which comes with boating enforcement is fishing enforcement. So our number one priority, right, if you back up to the list, is Fish and Wildlife law enforcement. So number one thing we're looking for out on the lake is Fish and Wildlife law enforcement. Does that person have a license? Did that person catch an approved fish, or maybe has broken some other rule for Fish and Wildlife? So that'll get us into the encounter of doing a check on the boat, which then comes with, is that person wearing a life vest? Is that person, are there enough life jackets on? Is the boat up to date on the equipment and registration? So that's what we're out looking for. So that spends that takes up quite a bit of our time. So ATV patrols, what I typically try and do, we mentioned that before. What I typically try and do on a typical weekend. So that one of the days, whether it's a Saturday or Sunday, one of the days I'll spend the full day out on the lake and work fishermen. And we team up, so we work closely together. And I'll work with another warden, sometimes go out by myself, sometimes multiple wardens. So one day we'll do boat patrol, then the next day we'll do ATV patrol. And so again, adding to the list of cool toys we get, each warden, mostly each warden gets an ATV. So, and it's take home, and you're just required to do the upkeep on it and get out and use it for sure. So, and they come in handy for all sorts of different things. Fall, that's really our big, it's the busiest time of the year for us, for sure. It's long days. This is why when you sign up to be a game warden, this is what you sign up for. This is where real stuff comes in. So if I don't know if everybody's watched Northwoods Law, but Northwoods Law spends a lot of time filming the fall hunting seasons. These are cases that we've had. These are all illegal deer shot that you're seeing on your screen here. We're looking for deer that are shot not in season or at night or from the road. So it's a big busy time for us for sure. So that was a deer one. This is the bear slide. That bear that just walked across, I wish I would have turned my camera. It's bigger, twice the size of any of these. He was a big boy. And now I hear my chickens squawking, so yikes. So these are some bear cases that the guys have made. And then moose, so we put in some moose stuff here. We're actually bringing back the moose season this year. The biologists and the Fish and Wildlife Board have approved 55 moose hunting permits to come out. These moose, these top three, were all illegally killed. This guy was actually hit by a car, so he wasn't illegally killed, but that I put this slide in here just to talk about roadkill a little bit. So we're responsible for every deer, moose, and bear that gets hit on the highways outside of the interstate. Unless the deer, moose, or bear is still alive on the interstate, then we'll respond to it and put it down. So that being said, all of the big game roadkill that's salvageable gets used. And we just started a new program with kind of wardens feeding the hungry. And so myself and another warden, Abigail Sarah from Rutland City, we're butchering big game species and donating them to the food shelf with the help of other wardens too, that come in to help us out and bring us game animals. So in the past 2 weeks, we've already cut up 2 moose and 4 bears and upwards of 12 deer. So we're putting a lot of meat, and it's going through the food shelf. So it's kind of a nice little program that we're doing. We also still give out meat to any family that wants one, somebody that hits one, or it wants to be on our deer list, and we still give out deer, moose, and bear to single families too that can process it themselves. So I said assisting other agencies. So we do everything from, sorry, these 2 pictures here are a little blurry. I kind of had to blow them up and they weren't the right exact resolution, but so we have offices in most state police barracks. We work very closely with the troopers, probably more closely with the troopers than any other law enforcement agency. They help us out, we help them out. We've done everything from assisting them with the apprehension of homicide suspects to job fairs and different things that I've met up with them at before, and different public speaking things. So sheriff's department, so each county has a sheriff in it. Each county has a sheriff's department. I work really closely with the Orange County Sheriff's Department, not only to help them out, or they help me out, but they also run our dispatch center for Operation Game Thief, which I'll talk about in just a second. But I've done everything from doing their, whether it's an event for kids. We've been doing quite a bit. Myself and Warden Mike Scott from Washington have been doing a bunch of the rolling birthday parties and appreciation parties. So, and it's always, we kind of pride ourselves that the favorite is the Warden truck. So, but we've been doing quite a bit of that through Orange County and through our local fire department. And I put up the Fish and Wildlife badge here on the other side, and I said assisting other agencies. Well, a lot of our stuff, we do biological collection. So I have a background in biology and wildlife science. So for me, it's not just all about law enforcement for this job. We do lots of, we just came off of a deer fetus survey. So we are actually collecting fetuses from killed does that were, hit on the interstate or hit on any road, sorry. And we'll collect the fetus from that. And then we'll actually take a tooth from the deer. And so what we're looking for is we're looking to see when that fawn, the unborn fawn, was conceived. So we'll know when and if we have to adjust the hunting season due to how the deer breeding cycle is. And we're pretty consistent in the past. In all the years I've been doing it have been roughly the same week as the top, what we call peak breeding season. So, or the rut as we call it as hunters. So they're all pretty much the same, well, roughly in November. We take the tooth out, and then the biologists can submit the tooth to the lab, and they can tell exactly how old the deer is. We do all sorts of stuff with turkeys too. We do, turkey count surveys. Bears, every bear that we handle dead, we take a tooth out of it. So we take the tooth and the same thing. So they can pull that tooth and see how old that bear is. So I talked a little bit about public outreach. This is a big part of my job, my particular job, just because I enjoy doing it and I enjoy the Operation Game Thief program. So this is a trailer that we have, myself and another warden built, Warden Jason Gravel out of White River. We built this trailer and all of this stuff, it's hard to see here, but anything you can see inside, as far as taxidermy goes, any of those animals were killed illegally in the state of Vermont. That big buck that you can see there, he's the biggest buck shot in Vermont since 1989, and he was shot out of season illegally. Any of the firearms, bows, different various things that you can see in there were implements of something used to kill an animal illegally. Here I'm being interviewed on the left for Local 44. They did a segment on Operation Game Thief. You can see my cruiser in the background. So we're all issued, everybody, we run Chevy Silverado trucks, and so we're issued one of those. And so the trailer goes out on the road. So what Operation Game Thief is, and it will be fast because I don't want to run out of too much time. Operation Game Thief is, it's an avenue and a tool that we use, that we've put together as a team of us. And it's an avenue for reporting violations anonymously. So somebody to report a violation to a game warden, there's several different ways to do it. They can go to our website, vtfishandwildlife.com, and then there's a spot that says contact a game warden. You can type in the town you live in or the town you're interested in where the violation occurred, and it'll pop up with the game warden that covers that district. So each game warden covers anywhere between 7 to 10 towns. And then that warden that covers that district will pop up. You'll get his or her personal cell phone number, and then you can call that number to report a violation. If you're not so much comfortable with talking to the warden directly, but want to talk to maybe a state police dispatch first, then you call the state police dispatch number. That number's on there. You're going to get all of my contact info at the end of this. But any violation you see. So, and then the last one, Operation Game Thief, if you call that number, you can see it on the roof of the trailer, 1-800-75-ALERTS. If you call that, that goes through to an anonymous dispatcher, and the dispatcher actually sits at Orange County Sheriff's Department. They dispatch for them too. They will take the info down. If you want to leave your name, great. If not, then that's totally fine. This is an avenue where you can report a violation 100% anonymously, and it will get to a game warden. I see every call that comes in, and we make sure that they're forwarded out. Even more so, depending on the outcome of the case, or depending on the info that we get, we will pay cash rewards. We've paid out usually, well, the amount is usually $250 to $500, depending on what the case might be. And I've seen big payouts that have came in for certain high profile cases. So that's the program kind of in a quick nutshell. This trailer is a display trailer. We bring it to all sorts of different events, whether it's sportsman shows, Green Mountain conservation camps. We try and get it to any outdoor events that draw a large crowd. We like to bring it there. We work pretty hard, so it's nice to show it off every once in a while. And if you get a chance and you're at Dead Creek Day in Middlebury or Addison, it's always there. It's a pretty cool tool, and it's a pretty cool thing to check out. So kind of the fun things, some of the interesting things is exotic and nuisance species. These can be anything from an alligator, right? I think this one came from southern Vermont somewhere. We don't have alligators here, but just in 11 years of doing this, I've helped out with several. We've got Sergeant Chad Barrett in Waterbury is our exotic specialist, and I will tell you, he has no fear when it comes into these things. I've seen him wrestle alligators, the anacondas, as some sort of poisonous lizard, deal with all sorts of things. And we work closely with rainforest reptiles en masse. So our exotics most of the time don't have to be euthanized, and they get to go to a rehab facility. So nuisance species. So we got a couple shots here, just random nuisance thing. Our number one nuisance problem animal right now is bears, for sure. So I'm sure some of you on this call have seen a bear. I wish I would have turned that camera, because you would have got to see a real big one. They're out there. We've in the state of Vermont, we've never seen this many bears due to just population growth. We've never seen this many bear-human conflicts either, and that might be due to some sort of human maybe. Well, we'll just say we record every human bear interaction negatively, so or any negative one. So if somebody sees a bear walking like this guy just walking across my lawn, that's not a nuisance bear. That's a bear being a bear. I'm going to hopefully go out to not find a bunch of chicken feathers, but we have problems with them getting into beehives or getting into chicken coops and trash and things like that. So we record those. To the left, I just thought that was a funny picture. It's a big snapping turtle, in the road, I think it was. Then the top picture, fawn. We discourage people from picking up fawns. This is something that somebody had picked up, and we have to go and take those fawns away and take care of them. So moving on to our poll question. This is what I posted up for the poll question. I'm not sure, Ashley, how you want to go about.
Yeah, so I just launched it. So you should all see that pop up showing up on your screen right now. And so the question that Jeff is posing to us, which of the following is not a violation? So shooting at an animal from a vehicle, hunting deer at night using a light, not wearing a life vest while in a kayak, or having a loaded shotgun in a vehicle on a public highway. So select which answer you think is not a violation. And then Jeff is gonna talk us through, and I'll give folks a couple more seconds. And again, if this chat, if this poll isn't popping up in your chat box, that is a-okay. You can just go ahead and type in your response into the chat, and we can learn that way. Okay, so it looks like we have most of our votes in. So for results, we've got 14% of folks saying hunting deer at night using a light, and 86% of folks saying not wearing a life vest while in a kayak. What is our answer, Jeff? Talk us through that.
Yeah, perfect. So the correct answer is a little tricky, and I apologize for that. I put the correct answer in because it's something I want to talk about that we're passionate about. And the correct answer is C, it's not wearing a life vest when you're, or your personal flotation device when you're in a kayak. So did I word that tricky? Yes, I apologize. So the law says it has to be with you unless you're, well, if you're 12 years old or younger, you have to wear it while you're in a life vest. So it's a little bit of a tricky question. Or you have to wear your life vest when you're in a kayak, or any vessel for that matter. So if you're 12 and in the vessel is under motion, 12 or younger have to wear a PFD in any vessel if you're under motion. So do you have to have one with you? Yes. So we see lots of times folks in kayaks have don't have one, and more so paddleboards. So paddleboarding has exploded in the past, we'll say 4 years. Here, paddleboard, awesome, right? So I've been out on them a bunch of times. They're lots of fun. Do you have to have a life jacket when you're on a paddleboard? Think about that. You're like, well, it's a paddleboard. It doesn't have a motor. It can't go that fast. I'll fall off and I'll grab onto it. The answer is yes. Well, on a paddleboard, you have to have a life jacket on the paddleboard. You don't have to wear it if you're over 12 years old. You can have to be on there. So we run into that quite a bit. So that's something I want to talk about just because we're entering the summer season. It's going to be really nice this weekend. There's going to be a lot of boats out, and we're going to use this as a little PSA to try and keep some people safe. So, and then the other thing, so shooting an animal from a vehicle, right? So some of you may have witnessed that. Some of you may have been complainants on that before or seen that somewhere. So we can't shoot an animal in the state of Vermont from a vehicle, even if it's off the road. But the legal distance off the road to shoot at and kill an animal during a season, hopefully, is 25 feet for most animals. If you are within 25 feet from the travel portion of the public highway, then you can't engage in hunting. And so it's got to be 25 feet or more from a public highway. For most animals, moose is a little bit different. Moose is actually 300 feet, but that's a very protected hunt. Hunting deer at night using a light. So well, any legal hunting. So we would call that deer jacking. So that's a big time thing that we look for at night in the fall. It does happen. I made a case on July 7th one time of somebody shooting a deer at night. Not super common, but in the fall, folks shining spotlights is. Some states outside of the hunting season, you can shine a spotlight. Pennsylvania is one of those states you can spotlight deer. In the state of Vermont, you cannot spotlight deer at night, no matter any time of the year. Let's see. So, in having a loaded shotgun on a vehicle on public highway. So, same thing as a rifle, any long gun. So no rifle or shotgun can't be, a rifle or shotgun, so any long gun can't be loaded while in a vehicle on a public highway. Handguns are a little bit different. Handguns can be loaded and concealed in Vermont in a vehicle. Yeah, so thanks for taking the poll. Hopefully it was somewhat interesting. So prereqs for our job. We hire, we're a little bit different than a lot of other law enforcement agencies, where we have some pretty strict prereqs or at least some that are more strict than others. I'm not sure how to word that, so I'll just continue. So you've got to hit one of the following in order to apply for us. You have to have 2 years prior active duty military, 2 years prior law enforcement, 60 college credits in an outdoor related field, which is 2 or so. Well, you guys know it's 2 or so years if you're ambitious, maybe a little bit more. Or 2 years of work in a natural resources field. So if you're a forester or a biologist or something like that, that would put you in to qualify. So and let's just back up to the college credits and outdoor related field. Really can be any outdoor related field. It doesn't have to be fish and wildlife biology or wildlife law enforcement or wildlife conservation enforcement, any of those. It can be forestry or, you think of it, maybe even ecotourism. So outdoor related field. How to apply. So everything is done online with us, like most states. So our website, and then you create an online account, submit an application. But these are kind of cool photo. The bear hanging out right by him. The next step. So say you've already hit a prereq. You've got your application filled out. You can submit your resume right online, and then it goes into our human resources department. They sort out the folks, and then the application gets pushed through. So you get moved on to testing day. And testing day, the first test, I can't remember if it's the Warden test first. When I took it, it was. You take it's a Warden specific written test. So it's not specifically about fish and wildlife law, but it's more so geared towards the outdoors. There's different biological questions on there. There's questions about Warden work, different tools of the trade for hunting, fishing, trapping. So it's a little bit longer than the Police Academy entrance exam. The entrance test, it does take a little bit. We're talking maybe 2.5 hours, 3 hours, somewhere in there. So when you move on from that test, you take the written Police Academy entrance exam. So the entrance exam is a lot like civil service tests for New York or for other places. Every law enforcement officer that goes to the Vermont Police Academy has to pass this test. The test is about an hour and a half long, and it's reading, writing, some basic math stuff, and that's our version of what other states would call the civil service test. Pass both of those, you move on to the physical test. So this is our PT portion of it. So depending on your age is going to depend on how you have to score on these tests. As of right now, it's a 1.5 mile run, certain amount of sit-ups per minute, certain amount of push-ups per minute, a bench press, and a sit and reach in a swim test. So we are the only law enforcement agency in the state that requires a swim test. Our swim test is jump in the water fully clothed with laced up boots, pants, shirt, jump in the water without touching the side or the bottom, tread water for 10 minutes, and then swim 100 yards without touching the side or the bottom. So pretty easily accomplished if you practice for it, for sure. So the next steps, you move on from that, you move into panel interviews. The panel interviews typically consist of 4 or so folks. Not all are active duty game wardens. Some are from human resources, some are lieutenants. And then you work through your panel interviews, and they'll ask you questions about different things and different scenarios, and just like probably any other job interview that you're gearing up to go to. There's a detailed, thorough background investigation. So we investigate our wardens pretty significantly, where we'll go through the whole background, whether it's just through personal interviews and then family interviews and things. So we want to make sure we're getting the right candidate for sure. So move all through that, and then you go through a polygraph test. So you actually do take the lie detector test, move through that, and then I'm missing a few small steps in here, but this is the overall picture. Then you get a conditional offer. So the colonel will call and say, congratulations. would you like to be in the Vermont Warden Service? And I can tell you exactly where I was standing and the exact time my phone rang 11 and a half, well, just over 11 and a half years ago. So yeah, pretty exciting for sure. So conditional offer happens, then now it's time to gear up and get ready for the academy. So the academy it's very paramilitary. It's a basic training. You go there for 4 months. You stay at the academy. You're there with all other law enforcement in the state. So you're there with state troopers, sheriff's deputies, municipal cops. So you're there for 4 months full time. You do get to go home on Fridays, so you have the weekends off. So that's pretty nice. But you're there for four months. It's a 16-week basic training course. And then after the 4 months is complete, you have a couple of weeks of some smaller classes, but it's a lot more relaxed after graduation. So once you're done with that, you move right into 8 months of on-the-job training. So what we call our FTO time, or our field training time. So you're stationed, or you get sent around the state for 8 months, 1 month in a different district of each part of the state of Vermont, working with field training officers. You're working with wardens who have been on for a while and who are good teachers, folks who want to pass on their knowledge and their different tools of the trade, and it's a lot of fun. It really is. I tremendously enjoyed my FTO time. It is a long time. When you look up different other there's law enforcement agencies in the state of Vermont that have 30 days for field training time, and they give you the keys and you go out and you're now a cop, and you get to go out and ride around and do cop things. If you think about 4 months in the academy, so you spend 4 months there learning how to be a cop, you get an hour and a half of Fish and Wildlife instruction. So an hour and a half out of 4 months is not a whole lot of time to learn how to be a game warden. We don't send our recruits there to learn how to be game wardens. We'll teach that in the 8 months. So our 8 month field training seems ridiculously long. So obviously you can add 8 and 4, that's a full year. So it does take a full year to become a game warden. So once that phone call happens and you get that conditional offer, you're going to be in it for a year. So for sure, yeah. And then you move on from that, and it goes to your district placement. So when things shuffle around and districts open up, my first district, so I grew up, I'll tell you a little bit, I grew up kind of in the Island Pond area, where in West Charleston. And then I was up there for about a month or so. I was up almost 2 months waiting for a district to be open. So I was covering the Newport district for a little bit of time. And then a district opened in Rutland County. So I was down in Rutland County for about 3 years. And then I moved up to where I'm at now in Orange County. So there is opportunity for movement around the state. Your first district, you pretty much get told where to go. But after that, then you can, apply for districts that move around. And we're having some shuffling going on now. We've had a recent retirement. We're going to have some more recent retirements. We're a little bit light on the budget to stay. So our hiring time is going to be postponed for probably a minimum of about 3 years. So maximum of hopefully no more than 5. So when we get some retirements happening, then we'll need to fill those positions, and hopefully we can fill those sooner than later, for sure. So retirement wise, I know we're running out of time here, so I'll speed up a little bit. A couple of the perks of the job are, well, there's a lot of perks of the job. You saw all the equipment we get to take home. My favorite perk of the job is you get to make your own hours. So we're required to work 9.25 hours a day. And that's 9.25 hours of however you want to spend it. So you can, like today is a great day. I got up early, signed on, did a couple of catch up things, had an injured deer, took care of that, came back, doing this. I'm going to go hook my boat up and get it washed and ready for tomorrow, because I want to spend a full day on the lake. But you get to make your own schedule. You can work night shift, you can work day shift. It doesn't matter, as long as you're covering your district the way you see fit. So you get a bunch of take-home toys. And retirement wise, so state law enforcement, we're required to retire at a certain age. So we have to retire at 55. So it's mandatory at the month you turn 55 that you are all done for state law enforcement. So at least for state police and for the warden service. So is that a good perk of the job? I mean, if you ask me, because I got hired when I was 22, I think that's a perk, but maybe somebody who, doesn't have full time in, maybe not, but so either way, it's kind of interesting, I guess. But so yeah, it's kind of my recruiting thing. So it says become a state game warden. This is a fun picture we took. This replicates a picture from, I believe, 1914 or 1904. This is the State House. This is us in black and white with our parade dress uniform. So this is all the game wardens in the state right here. You're looking at them, including command staff. So, and I believe we took that picture not last Christmas, the Christmas before. So yeah, I'm gonna leave my contact info up here. That's my email, my dispatch, and my own cell phone. So any questions, comments, if we've got folks out there who are looking for, maybe you need some volunteer hours, or you're looking for a side project, or you need somebody to give a statement, or if you want to interview me for anything fish and wildlife law related, I'm happy to participate in any any interviews or anything I can do to help anybody out. Like I said, if you have any need for volunteering or anything, give me a shout. I've got some projects I'm coming up with. It doesn't matter where you live in the state. I could probably work on something for you. And I enjoy doing that too. So don't hesitate. That's my state email and my cell phone, and I've got it with me all the time. So yeah, I think that's it. So I'll stop sharing my screen here and we'll.
Great, thanks, Jeff. I will relaunch my screen over
Maybe
yours.
Jeff, while Ashley's doing that, it might be a two-part question. I'm going to jump right in there just before I lose my train of thought. From my memory of when I was working for the camps program, we worked so closely with the wardens, not only coming and doing the outreach side of things at the camp, but helping us with the firing ranges and trainings and things like that. But you also, at least to our staff, offered the opportunity for a ride along. But that's been a couple of years. Is that still a thing that is offered to Vermonters?
Yeah, for sure. So we do the ride along program. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So we're suspended on the ride along program now. We're just because of COVID concerns and things, but we will be moving forward with that when we're allowed to have people back in the truck. The only requirement we have is that it's a minimum age of 16 for ride along. We do have to do a little background check, but we'll take care of that through headquarters. And yeah, you sign the release form, and anywhere in the state, if you are somebody out there listening today and you're interested in a ride along, send me an email, send me your contact info and where you live, and I can hook you up with the closest game warden. Or I'm more than happy to meet you somewhere too, and you could ride with me personally if you'd like. So
That's awesome. Thanks for touching on that. Appreciate it.
For sure.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. That's a great question. And Jeff, thanks for the presentation. That's really great. It's really a lot to take in terms of not only the training, but kind of the complexities of being on the job as a game warden. I mean, really, you're working to protect, animals and management plans and conservation plans that otherwise have no enforcement. So it's really interesting to kind of hear about all the facets and how those shift regionally. So thanks so much for being here. I'd love to ask everyone that's in our session today, if you have questions for Jeff, go ahead and put them in the chat box. Any questions you might have about, laws, regulations about fish and wildlife, questions about even some of the, as Jeff talked about, he does have a background in the kind of fisheries and wildlife biology, anything like that. But I will kick things off with a question, Jeff, just thinking about kind of your personal trajectory in getting here. What kind of things did you think about maybe as a high school student to kind of prepare yourself for a career with the Vermont Warden Service?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, and that kind of comes in from the last question up here too. How did you decide you want to be a game warden? So I'll answer those both at the same time. So I grew up in northern Vermont in the Kingdom, and I I just kind of knew from, it's gonna sound cliche and weird, but from 5th grade, I wanted to be a game warden. And from then on, and then it just reinforced in 8th grade when, I was meeting game wardens and had a tremendous gift given to me by somebody who brought me into more so into the world of Fish and Wildlife law enforcement. So going through high school, I started kind of thinking, oh, I want to do this. And I was doing, volunteer work with Fish and Wildlife, and I'd get out every time I could to do stream sampling and electroshocking, and fish stocking, and every chance we could get, I was out trying to get as close as I could to the Fish and Wildlife Department. When it came time for college, I knew the only thing I wanted to do was to be a game warden, and that might have been, I think maybe my deciding factor from when we were kids is, my brother and I would ice fish with my dad probably every weekend, and we would go out, and we'd get checked by a game warden a lot. My dad was friends with one of the game wardens there, and so it was, I got to see that working relationship and see how cool that job was, and I was excited every time I saw like the headlight of the snowmobile coming across the lake in freezing conditions, knowing that it was a game warden coming to check our license, and maybe the appeal of getting a new snowmobile was kind of nice, but I think that's probably the deciding factor of when I decided, when I started gearing towards this, going, that would be a really cool job, and it hasn't let me down since, for sure. So yeah.
Ashley, would you mind if I jumped in with a question? I don't see anything in the chat box, but I think maybe some people in the background would appreciate this too. Jeff, would you be willing to talk about like the specialty side of things? I've met a couple of the game wardens, some have canine units, to where you said Chad Barrett is more nuisance. Would you be able to touch on some of those specialty sides of the position as well?
Yeah, definitely. So we have lots of little programs inside, well, under our umbrella, we'll say. So we're Fish and Wildlife. Every game warden is a game warden, meaning, we all have the baseline stuff. It's all that list, that hierarchy of lists. And then amongst that list, you can find a little niche somewhere. So we do have a canine program. We have all sorts of different side programs. So we're a small department. If you want to look at, maybe the state police or something, who has, 300 or so officers. We certainly don't have that many. We're mid-30s typically. So we have a canine program. We also have different, like, firearms instructors. We have non-lethal, defensive tactics instructors that train us. We are highly trained. I would match our training with any other law enforcement training in the state. We train hard and we train efficiently. And our requirements, we hold our wardens to a very high standard, whether it be with defensive tactics, firearms, PT, any of that stuff, where we are required to maintain a pretty sharp set of skills, for sure, because we could be in a placement, we could be dropped somewhere where we need to know what to do real fast, or either to save somebody's life, or maybe to save our own from whatever it might be, from a violent offender to a weather condition incident. It's not uncommon for us to be out 26 below zero trying to find somebody on the backside of Killington after they've been lost. But so we do have those specialized skills, and which is really nice because we train ourselves a lot. We do lean on other agencies for other trainings, but it's really nice to get together and learn from folks who have those special set of skills. And if you haven't got a chance to see any of our canine demos at any event, that's pretty special to watch. These dogs are the best of the best, and they're trained to track people and find evidence, so they can find some pretty unique things in some pretty challenging environments. So yeah, I know I'm missing out some special teams. There's teams that we have teams that review laws. So those are guys that will actually sit down and rewrite SOPs and rewrite different laws and review laws. And we have all sorts of different things. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Jeff. I have a question to build on that, actually. So thinking about what you just said about the fact that the warden service is very small, you all cover very large districts with very, kind of intense and challenging terrain. So you cannot be everywhere monitoring everything all the time. So it seems to me that it'd be pretty important that you are kind of well knit into your community, and thinking about, like, you know, using your community and leaning on them to help you kind of do your job, and, you know, thinking about Operation Game Thief, but also just thinking about the relationship you have to have with your community so that they trust you and they come to you when there are, you know, some of these incidents of deer being poached, and especially in some of these small Vermont communities where, you know, it could be a friend or someone that you know that's involved in this. So I'm curious if you could talk about that at all.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. So we really rely on the community for our eyes and ears. There's a study out there. I can't remember. I can't reference it because I don't remember exactly what it is. But it's basically fish and wildlife law enforcement. It's not from here. The study is from, I think, Missouri, maybe. But they did a study to see how much fish and wildlife law enforcement detects violations, and they had actually did some tests and things. I won't tell you the whole thing because I don't want to misrepresent their study, but they found that fish and wildlife law enforcement officers were catching and finding out, detecting, not even making arrests on, but detecting less than 1% of the violations that were actually happening out there. And these are folks that they were actually committing, fish and wildlife violations and trying. And it's a very complex study, and I read it a couple of years ago. But with the public's help, it can only go up from there, right? So you think about we've got 30 right now with retirements. We have roughly 32 game wardens in the field. So think about how many towns there are in Vermont. Think about how big Vermont is. We have 32 of us in the field to cover the whole state. Vermont State Police has over 300 troopers. So we got 32 of us, 300 troopers to cover the whole state. So we are solely relying on the general public. And we do go out and we will proactively combat poaching, for sure. No doubt about it. We have wildlife robotics that you may have seen them. We have deer that move, tail wags, the head moves. They do everything from almost up to shaking your hand. They're pretty unique. And we'll put those out at night and we get them shot. So that would be definitely a proactive approach to combating poaching. But we really rely on folks calling it in. I put if you remember back on the trailer, I put a big, huge yellow sticker on it that says, "See it, report it." So when I tell people in any of these trailer incident or these trailer appearances that I do, somebody will say, "Well, what, I saw my neighbor, come home. I heard a gunshot, and then I saw a tractor go across the road at 2 a.m. and I thought it was weird, but I didn't say anything about it." Well, I kind of say, if it looks illegal, fish and wildlife wise, it probably is. And there's not a game warden in the state that's gonna, if you call him or her and say, "I just heard a gunshot, I saw a truck drive by, I'm a little concerned. Maybe I'm concerned for my domestic animals. I'm concerned for the safety or the health of the deer herd." There's not a game warden in the state that is going to turn you away because you called him or her and reported what you think is a violation, for sure. Now, if you call at 3 a.m., 2:30 a.m. to ask me when trout season starts in 2022, it might be a little bit different. But we're paid, we're on call 24/7. We are, and if we can't make it to something, then we will get you somebody there to make it. So we rely heavily on the eyes and ears of our community members, for sure. And that's kind of like the Vermont way. It's helping, Vermonters helping Vermonters, for sure. And not only that, we'll in turn protect your natural resource by calling us and getting us on the road to respond. So
That's great. Yeah, thanks, Jeff. There's a question coming in the chat box. This is a wardrobe question, Jeff, actually. Could you tell us, so in addition to some of the equipment that you talked about, it looks like there is specific garb for different kind of events. So someone's asking specifically about the red and the green warden jacket.
Yeah, for sure. So we're one of the smallest agencies in the state as far as police force, but I'm going to say we're the best dressed. That's just an opinion of mine. So we have all sorts of different uniforms, right? So the green and the red jackets. The red is it's historical. They're Johnson Willow Mill jackets made here in Vermont, and the red one. Not only is it visible when we're out working folks in deer season or something, but it's tradition, and we typically wear the red on more dressed up kind of scenarios. So, but a mid dress up. So if there's if we're going to court, then we won't wear this actual uniform. So, this is what we're typically wearing day to day. So this is our rough duty outfit, I guess. It's our vest that we wear every day. We have a Class A uniform, which has is much more shiny, and we wear our Stetson hats, and those are for court or for parades or a funeral or any event for that. So and then the green jacket is just a little more to blend in, super warm, and so there's no big significant difference, except for we wear the red when we need to look shiny for sure. And we have another red. We couldn't see it in that picture with all of us in there, but because it was black and white. But we have another parade jacket that when we wear all that, it'd be really hard to tell us difference from the Canadian Mounties, I guess, but it's sharp. So
yeah, that's great. Thanks so much. Well, let's give a virtual round of applause to Jeff, and thanks so much for joining us and sharing a little bit about your field of work and expertise, and giving us some insight into ways that as community members we can also help out and just be aware of what some of the regulations are, and just know that there is somewhere to call so when you're seeing those violations. And so actually that brings me to my next piece here. So I'm going to pop up the feedback poll. So we are always looking for feedback on these sessions. So please share with us your thoughts for today. And while you're voting on that, I just want to share with you, Caroline's going to pop a link into the chat box here. So this kind of your take home activity is to just be aware of Operation Game Thief. And if you see something, you know what to do. You can call and report it in, and Jeff oversees that program. And so all of those reports are getting reviewed. And so Caroline's putting that in there. And then also just know that if you are interested potentially in what game wardens do, and maybe eventually doing a ride along, or just kind of getting linked up. I know Jeff also mentioned that game project where they are sharing meat with the food shelf, and so there's lots of stuff happening, especially in the community. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out to Jeff. Caroline can pop his email in the chat box. And then as always, we want to remind you about our next session on Friday and invite you. So on Friday, this will be our last official session. This is with Sydney Diamond, who is a master's student here at the University of Vermont, and she is studying algae. And so actually, if you have questions about kind of how algae is used to gather information about water quality, this would be a great session to attend. So Sydney is a paleolimnologist, so she's looking at diatoms and uses sediment cores to evaluate water quality in different regions. So she'll be chatting about that. And then just another plug, next week we'll be doing a trivia session. So it'll actually be pretty different than our format. We're going to cover all the topics we've talked about, have an interactive trivia thing. So it should be pretty fun. We're pretty excited about it. So we'd love for you to join us. And as always, thank you so much for attending and being here with us today. And we will see you soon. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.